It is Wednesday, June 27th, 2018. Good things come to those who wait, sort of. This guy's Daily Drive. And good afternoon. This is Guy's Daily Drive. Daily Drive! Wow, this month has been not exactly stellar for Guy's Daily Drive. Besides not having too many episodes out because I was out of town. There also wasn't that many posted of the ones that I did record. And that's mostly just because I wasn't around to post them. Plus, there is more stuff that I'm doing with them now. And what I really need to do is get into kind of a rhythm so that at the same time that I edit and post on YouTube a Guy's Daily Drive, I am at the same time converting it to an MP3 file and uploading it so that iTunes can do something with it. And I mean, none of this takes a colossal amount of time, but when you're 3 or 4 episodes behind, you have a tendency to want to do all the videos first, and then you come back to the audio. And when you do that, then you have to try to remember whatever the heck it was that you talked about in the one that you did the day before. You know, it's not easy. But I am getting caught up. There's only a couple more that I haven't posted yet that are edited. I think there's only one more that I need to edit. So, you know, it little by little I am kind of scratching through the things that I need to do, and I will get to the end of it. Now, but that's not what this is about. The good things come to those who wait. Because Guy's Daily Drive is many things. I won't sit here and tell you how good it is, because that's subjective and kind of on you guys. But the whole point of all of this is to get more stuff, more content out there. And and I forgot to mention this, at the same time that I'm doing all this other stuff, I need to start posting it as well, links to it, in Patreon and Ko-fi. You know, the two places that people actually give me a little bit of money to do this stuff. So I need to get a lot better at that. It's never going to supplement my income a great deal. I'll be delighted if it allows me to break even. Right now, I think the couple of websites I have cost me like $10-20 a month, not a whole lot. The Podbean account that I post the audio files, I think that's about $12 a month. And, you know, I mean, there's just little things here and there. All in all, I'm probably spending, I don't know, $40 to $50 a month or less, you know, doing this stuff. And it's fun. I really, really enjoy it. But none of that is what I wanted to really talk about. What I wanted to talk about was that after 7 long years, the lawsuit between Apple and Samsung is finally over. There was some kind of settlement between them where they agreed to drop all of the shenanigans between them. They haven't disclosed what exactly was done or what was said or what agreements they came to or how much money there was. And I imagine over the course of the next couple of days there'll be a lot of speculation on just what that is. The whole thing about this case really was the events that occurred when the iPhone was first released back in 2007. And who you believe is the innovator and who you think is at fault and all the rest of that really probably depends on what company you are typically more likely to believe. Now, when Apple came out with the iPhone, it wasn't like that was the very first smartphone or that it was the very first phone that had a relatively large screen, that had like a checkerboard layout for application. I mean, none of this was original. The thing that made the iPhone kind of unique, number one, it worked exactly the way it was supposed to, which was something very, very novel compared to most smartphones at the time. It was easy to use, whereas most other smartphones at the time, mainly BlackBerries, were not that easy to use. So you had this new device, and a couple of things happened right when the iPhone came out. Android was getting ready to come out, and when it came out, it looked almost exactly like iOS. And that by itself, you could say, oh, well, parallel development, and it's an obvious use case of the space and how to manipulate applications and data and all the rest of that. Except that's not what Android originally was going to look like. Originally, Android looked and worked quite a lot like BlackBerries, which was the successful smartphones at the time before the iPhone came out. And there was a member who worked for Google that was on Apple's board of directors that they all got an early peek at what the iPhone was going to be like. And then all of a sudden, Android changed shapes to what it was to more or less what it is. That is not a coincidence. That is pretty much what it sounds like. In my eyes and a lot of other people's eyes, that was intellectual theft. And Apple didn't go after Google, I think mostly because they would pretty much argue from prior art that there was none of the stuff that the iPhone did was unusual, that they were looking at it from a UI standpoint and not the hardware. So what Apple did instead to try to scare off other people from using Android was they didn't sue Google, they sued Samsung, which was one of the first companies to have an Android phone with what was like the iPhone at the time. So, but it didn't quite work because everybody and their brother started coming out with Android-based smartphones. And, you know, it got to the point in the lawsuit where I think both sides were sick to death of it, but Apple couldn't let it go because they were the ones that brought the lawsuit. And Samsung couldn't let it go because they kind of had to save face as a company, that they weren't copycats, that they too were innovators. And then there was a whole bunch of stuff in there with the fact that different parts of Samsung as a company was actually supplying parts to Apple to make their phones. So how weird is that? While Apple is suing one part of Samsung for copying the iPhone, they're purchasing parts to make those iPhones from a different part of Samsung. I mean, that's just weird, you know? I mean, I realize that that's international finance and that's supply chain and, you know, and all the rest of that, but it just sounds weird to say. Anyways, they've finally come together, put 50 lawyers in a dark room, probably only 25 came out, and they've hammered out some kind of agreement to where Apple and Samsung, in this matter, will end their lawsuits against one another. And that's a good thing, because both of these companies are so rich and have so much money that if Apple had lost and not got any money, it wouldn't really have mattered. Samsung is so wealthy that if they lost for the full amount, it still wouldn't have mattered. They had plenty of money. So it became more of some kind of way for both companies to save face, to both declare victory, and to walk away with a smile, no matter how forced, on their face. But we're the winners too. Not because we now have two companies playing nice with one another, so phones will get better. I mean, phones, as they are designed right now, have pretty much peaked. There's really not much more you can do other than incremental improvements. You can put in a better camera, you can put in a slightly better screen, but there's no like super innovative way to create or use or utilize a smartphone that hasn't already been done. Now, we're the winners, because this means that after this next news cycle, probably 1 to 2 weeks, maybe less than that, we will never have to hear about this stupid lawsuit ever again. And I know one man in particular will be delighted with this, and that is Bart Busschots, who does the Let's Talk Apple program, who from the beginning of this podcast, every single month in legal news, had to say something about this stupid case. And I'm sure he, along with very many other people, are just delighted that this is finally going to go away. Just in time for the Apple Qualcomm debacle that's currently going on. Anyway, if you'd like to get a hold of me, very, very simple thing to do. Guy at MyMac.com, probably. Or you can reach me on the Twitters, where my handle there is MacParrot. There is an event coming up in it's in about 2 weeks. 3 weeks. That's the MacStock Conference and Expo. You can find out more information than I could ever convey here by going to MacStockConferenceandExpo.com, or just do a Google search for Mac stock, and it very likely will come up. As a matter of fact, I know it'll come up. For $179 when you use the MyMac discount code, and that's MyMac, MYMAC, only cost you $179 for the entire weekend. And this is just going to be freaking amazing. If you live anywhere near Chicago, you don't want to miss this. If you have the time and honestly, just a little bit of scratch, you can come to the show that will put a smile on your face. And so many people in the podcastosphere, I don't think that's a word, but I just made it up, is going to be there and talking about how they do their things and how to be more productive on your Mac and iOS devices. I'll be there with Tim doing the MyMac Game Show quiz, and we've got some great stuff coming up for that as well. Barry's Midwest Mac Mingle Barbecue, whatever he's calling it this year, on Saturday night is going to be a lot of fun. And they're going to finish it off with Love Notes to Newton, which is a documentary about the Newton and how it's still relevant today, 20 years after it was canceled by Steve Jobs when he came back to Apple. So stay tuned for all of those things. Again, check out the Mac Conference and Expo website. You don't want to miss this, folks. I'm telling you, you will be sorry if you do, because it won't come around again until next year. But what will come around long before then will be another episode of Guy's Daily Drive. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. And we will catch you next time. Bye.